Can everybody see the PowerPoint on your screen?
Yes.
I can, yes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome those of you that are joining us on Zoom and over the phone. My name is Bertha Prince, the Energy Program Manager for Novista and CEMAI. I'd like to welcome everybody to our third distance delivery energy training session. This is Penny Saved, a Penny Earned, Home Energy Basics. It's an introduction to residential weatherization and opportunities in the Yukon-Kuskokwim region. On behalf of Calista Corporation, I would like to thank the Department of Energy, Indian Energy, for funding the CEMAI program. All participants should be muted during the presentation. We'll have about 5 minutes at the end of the presentation for questions.
Bertha, may I interrupt you for just a moment? I don't have the ability to record. Can you give me that permission?
Oh, it's recording.
Okay, sorry.
Since we have a small group joining us this morning, we'll start with introductions. We'll start off with Tashina.
Good morning. My name is Tashina, and I'm a consultant working with CEMAI under Deerstone Consulting.
Thank you, Tashina. Tim?
Good morning. Yes, Tim Leach here. And as Tashina mentioned, I'm also working with Deerstone under the CEMAI team here and work on especially the energy efficiency side and the strategic energy planning for communities and different parties that are in the communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. And Mike.
I'm Mike Spencer. I work with Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. I'm the Energy Programs Manager and will be helping out with some information today.
And we'll go over to the phone. John Owens.
Yes, good morning. This is John Owens. I'm the AVCP Regional Housing Authority Weatherization Program Manager. I've been under this program since 2011, working with the AHFC in weatherizing homes in our region.
Thank you, John. And we have another participant on the phone. Would you mind introducing yourself, your name, and where you're calling from? #6408 number. Well, thank you, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Jackie Landlord. I'm the housing director for the tribe in Mountain Village.
Welcome, Jackie.
Good morning.
Good morning. Today's agenda will be introduction to CEMAI program, home energy basics with Alaska Housing Finance Corporation, rural cap. Mike will be covering that portion, and then brief synopsis of AVCP Regional Housing Authority by John Owens, and then discuss the upcoming energy tracks, and then a question and answer session at the end. Meet the team. My name is Bertha Prince, Energy Program Manager for Novista and CEMAI. I'm originally from St. Mary's. This is my second year with the CEMAI program. Christy Williams is the Government Relations Manager for Calista Corporation, and Natalie Hansen is the Executive Director for New Vista. Our partners and technical service providers are Brian Hirsch, Tim Leach, Devony Plentovich, and Tashina Duttle. The purpose of CEMAI, in 2016, Calista Corporation received a grant from Department of Energy, Indian Energy, to establish an intertribal energy providers network for the Yukon-Kuskokwim region. CEMAI's purpose is to reduce energy costs, improve operational efficiency, and assist our people with understanding the energy needs of the region. Our goal is to provide real energy best practices, economies of scale, and improve operational efficiencies in the region. We assist communities by creating an energy roadmap that integrates energy plans and energy priorities to strengthen the community going forward. Program objectives of CEMAI: identify community, sub-regional, and regional energy needs, provide access to multi-level expertise and to address existing challenges, develop specialized training programs to build local capacity, nurture the creation of regional support networks, increase access to regional, state, and federal energy initiatives, and then also align the YK Delta energy and economic needs and reduce energy costs. I'll introduce Michael Spencer, Energy Program Manager for Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. Mike.
Thank you very much, Bertha and the rest of the CEMAI team. It's good to be able to talk about energy efficiency on the residential area. We came up with this saying, a penny saved is a penny earned, and a lot of us think of a penny as not worth very much. But obviously Benjamin Franklin thought so, and back in the day, a penny was worth a lot more. But a penny may seem to you a very insignificant thing, but it is a small seed from which fortunes spring. And while we're not looking for fortunes out of this saying here, we are looking at having the ability to have more comfort, more access to energy, and more access to money based on the concept of paying attention to every penny that we have. Next slide, please. So first of all, I want to talk about weatherization in general. And it started way back when first time somebody was cold and you're trying to figure out how to stay warm. That's the old version of it. The modern version started in the mid-70s, and in the mid-70s, we started hitting energy crunches. We had less oil, less energy. People were trying to do more with their energies that they had. And so a lot of, we'll put them as quote unquote scientists got together, or people who were actively engaged in the energy and energy conservation. They started getting together and trading ideas, and they didn't have codes. They didn't have programs that they could rely on. And so a lot of the information that we have today in building science on energy efficiency, it started in the mid-70s as a trial and error process. And some of those trials were successful. Some of them were more often unsuccessful, but we learned from all of those trials that they went through. And so nowadays, when we start talking about weatherization, we hope that most of what we do is based on science, and good science at that. Understanding that in a few years, we may get more information, more knowledge, and we may change things. But today, this is the best knowledge that we have when we start looking at energy efficiency. Most people think of weatherization as part of the energy rebate program, in which over $386 million was given to us, Alaska Housing, to do a weatherization program. And we did part weatherization and part rebate program based on that. But I'll concentrate mainly on the weatherization side, in which 20,000, almost 21,000 homes participated in the weatherization program. The homes, in Alaska, we rank homes from 0 to a 6-star, 0 being the less energy efficient, 6-star being highly energy efficient. And most homes in the weatherization program started off on a 2-star. And by the time the weatherization was completed, they moved up to a 3-star, which is a 2-step process. So there's a 2-star and then a 2-star plus, 3-star, 3 plus. So that's why we say that it went up 2 steps. The program on these 21,000 homes had a reduction of $183 million in savings, which is quite tremendous, averaging approximately $29,000 reduction, 29% reduction in the average energy use of these homes. In addition to the cost savings, there is the comfort issue, which cannot be calculated. There is the health and safety, again, which can't be calculated. All part of the weatherization program that was done between 2008 and 2018. Next slide, please. Now, this is going to get a little bit uncomfortable for me, simply because the individual who was working for Rural Cap that was going to present this hasn't shown up yet on our Zoom meeting here. So I will do my best to do justice to the work that they do. Rural Cap works across the state in early education, in housing, and health and well-being. And if I pull out their housing, what they do in housing, they do affordable housing, supportive housing, homeless outreach, domestic violence shelters, self-help programs, certified loan packaging, weatherization, home modification and upgrades, mobile home repair, and senior access. So they are very skilled, very adept, not only at providing housing and housing programs, but also fixing homes and weatherizing them so that, again, they're safe and they are cost efficient to operate. Next slide, please. But what I really want to talk about here is the weatherization process that exists currently. And it is a lot more complicated than when I started working at AHFC 10 years ago. I was unaware of how complicated the process was. So basically, I'd like people to understand that when they apply for a weatherization, to participate in the weatherization program, it's not as simple as, oh, I signed up, there's money available to do it. Tomorrow, weatherization people are going to come and start working on my house. That's not the case in urban Alaska. It's not the case in rural Alaska. So first process is to fill out an application. That application then gets reviewed by a staff at Rural Cap or what other entity is doing the weatherization. And they're given a priority based on the needs of that house. If there are people, young kids or old elderly that are there, if they are sick or people that are physically handicapped, they score different than somebody who doesn't have these characteristics of the people living in their house. Based on their priority is the priority at which that house will get weatherized. Then they have to look at the funding sources and the grant sources that they have. Even though we rank everybody, do we have money to do weatherization or to do repairs that need to be done in the house? If there's no money, no repairs get done. If there is money, repairs get done. So they're looking at eligible funds for the homes. And that's on an ongoing yearly basis. They do that work. And then there's the economy of scale. In other words, when they go to or get an application of high priority homes, and let's say it's in a village, they have to have enough people in that village that qualify for the weatherization to make the trip worthwhile because of the costs associated. I don't know what that economy of scale is, but there has to be more than obviously one house that has to be done. At that point, once that economy of scale is reached, then in this case, Rural Cap will schedule an assessor to go out and look at all of the homes. And that assessor will look at the health and safety issues of the homes, what things need to be done to make those homes safe. They will also do an ACWARM energy rating or an assessment. In other words, ACWARM is an energy rating model which is able to look at how the house operates currently, and then what items can be improved on to make that house operate more efficiently. And so the things that can make that house operate more efficiently are giving a higher priority in repairing that house. The assessor will also do building and system diagnostics. They look at the fans. Do the fans operate? Do the fans actually not just run, but blow air out of the house? Do the furnaces or heating sources, are they clean? Are they operating? Are they backdrafting any poisonous gases? SHPO is a federal government term for historic homes. They have their own rules and regulations, so we have to make sure that we follow those guidelines. Are there any lead-based paints or asbestos in those homes? They need to be aware of those so that they can be prepared to abate those items when they come to do the repairs. And then there is the general health and safety issues that we kind of don't think about very often: mold, mildew, smaller things that do affect the health and the safety of not only the house, but the individuals. They assess all of the homes that are in that community, and they come back to their office, wherever their office is, and they order the materials. Once all of the materials for the community, which the community needs, has been ordered, then they ship the materials. You can probably, based on what you guys know, and you know better than I do, this ordering and shipping materials and getting the materials out there in a cost-effective manner is very expensive and time-consuming. So a lot of times the process takes a year or more from the time that applicant has put their application in to the time that the materials actually arrive in that community. Once they arrive in the community, based on how many homes need to be done, the Rural Cap crew will all work with local contractors and workers, train them in how to do certain tasks to make sure that those homes can be weatherized. Their goal is to, when they leave, is have a small crew that will be in that area who know something about energy efficiency and how to make a home more energy efficient. As this work is going on with the local contractors and workers, they are actually doing this work on the dwellings. So they don't, these contractors, they don't sit in a classroom. They're on the job training as they're going through the homes and making them more energy efficient, more airtight, more safe for them. After the work has been done in the entire community, then a post assessment needs to be done. The federal government and Alaska Housing requires that we are able to justify and verify that the improvements have been made. More importantly, that the improvements have been made correctly. So the assessor comes back and looks at all the improvements that were done on the homes, make sure it was done correctly, and then signs off on it. If there are corrections that need to be made, in other words, something wasn't installed properly, or they're missing something, they didn't complete all of their work, the contractors need to come back and finish the work. We don't want to have a homeowner with an incomplete project on their hands. We also don't want a homeowner to have a house that they thought was weatherized that was not completely weatherized to the expectations of the as-is assessor. One thing we need to make sure that we remember is that just because we as a homeowner might want new windows or a new door or something, it doesn't mean that that is what the assessor is going to replace and do for us. It's about the energy efficiency of the home and what costs, what is financially responsible to do with the monies that we have. So after all of the improvements have been made, there's a final pass off. There's a reporting process that the authorities having jurisdictions, either it's us or it's the federal government or one of their grants, they require. And then there is a period of work warranty that if something is done wrong, if they had made an installation that was incorrect, that they will go back and make sure that that is corrected, because we don't want any homes in a few years to be worse off than they were before the assessment and before the work was done. So there is a warranty on weatherization process. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to turn this over to John Owens, who works for AVCP, about some of the experiences that he has had.
Hello, this is John Owens, and I'm one of the program providers working under AVCP Housing Authority's weatherization program. And we have been under the weatherization program since 2008, along with RHA and other program providers throughout the state. And I'd like to thank Mike for going over the process that we usually go through in the weatherization program. But each year under the weatherization program, we are allowed to do annual reports. And with this report, we include the success story that of a home that we had weatherized in the annual year. In 2019, we weatherized units in AHFC, and all of the units that were weatherized realized considerable amount of improvement in energy savings and overall costs in that blow door test that we do. And our goal and objective is to make each unit warmer than how it was before and to save energy costs for each client. For this individual that we weatherized, it was built in 1970s by BIA, and when they built the home, all they put on top was a metal roof. There was no plywood or sheathing in between, and that would cause it to frost in the wintertime or when it got cold, and then defrost or start dripping into the house after it gets warm again. We replaced that metal roof with plywood and sheathing in between and new metal in between. We put a new wood stove. The wood stove that they had was not a catalytic wood stove, so it used a lot of wood in the process. The ones that we use today are those Blaze King Princesses. They are very energy efficient, and they don't use as much wood. We replaced the metal bestos pipes for the homes, and we replaced the windows to triple pane windows, and also the bathroom fan and the range hood fan. We usually replace them and we air seal the whole house, attic and the floor, and insulate the attic to R60, and insulate the floor soffit with a blow fill material, and that reduces the heat loss in each unit. Next slide, please. In the weatherization program, when we put the information into ACORM, it records the loss of heat before and after. For this individual home that we had weatherized, before it was weatherized, the cost to heat up the home was about $1,727, and after we weatherized it, it went down to $251 per year. That's an annual savings of $1,476. Per the quote of the letter that we received from the homeowner, is that my house was weatherized last fall by AVCP. All these years, the roof had only tin on it. After the roof was fixed, door changed, the windows and attic was insulated. There's a big difference from being cold to feeling heat around the clock. Before all this, my house was never warm enough, but now it's warm 24/7. For these units that we weatherize, that's our general outcome of the homes that are weatherized. For this individual, during the coldest months of the year last year, she stated that she only used about 5 gallons, where before they used probably a lot more, and that's because of the Blaze King wood stove that we put in each unit, and that has a burn time of longer than other non-catalytic stoves. And that's one of the success stories. Most or all of the units that we work on, they usually feel the difference of what we had done. It's not like before it was before. So it's more warmer, energy efficient, and they can use the funds or money that they saved for other costs that are realized. And I think that's pretty much that I can share with you right now.
John, thank you very much.
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you very much, John, for that, for talking about this homeowner. And I greatly appreciate your assistance in this project here. I know that just as interested as John and other people in the weatherization business are to keeping their homes safe, John and others are right now trying to get ready for the winter themselves. And so I appreciate the time that he's taken to help and to give us this story. One of these things that John was talking about is the comfort of the home. And we need to relook at the house as a system. And in this example, it's a mobile, right? And we've all played with mobiles of different sorts right now, but anytime you do touch something, in other words, if we touch air sealing, it affects everything else in that house. And so we have to be very careful when we start manipulating or removing or changing any of the components of a house. And in this, we're looking at air, moisture, heat, our health and our safety. The worst offender is the occupants, because those are the things that we can't control, right? I know that every time on my house that my wife walks past the thermostat, even though it's a programmable thermostat, her hand automatically goes up there and she increases the temperature up a couple degrees when it's really cold. But all of the different components of a house work together, and we have to kind of remember that as we're working. Next slide, please. So here's a slide of, and it looks like it's probably, I'm going to assume South Central or Southeast Alaska, where we have a nice water layer in between two panes of glass that were broken. And obviously, this is not going to be very energy efficient. So certain things, not only is there a health and safety issue with the glass being broken, but there's moisture in between the panes, which will most likely end up on the inside of the house. Next slide, please. We also have to look at our house when we're talking about it as a system. There's things that we need to be aware of, even though we can't do anything about them. The arrow on the right-hand side is wind coming and hitting our house. So anytime wind hits our house from one side, air, it has to go out somewhere else. In this case here, heated air is less dense than cold air, and it rises to the top, which looks for holes and will escape from the highest holes in the house that are possible, or it will go in and out through the chimney if you have a chimney. So air can come in one way because of wind and because of the stack effect, or because of air pressures, is always going to leave from the tallest part of the house possible. Next slide. One of the things, if we're not careful with our stack effect and making sure our house as a system operates properly, is we get this on our house. Now, this was a house that was painted. The 2x4s, which you can see as shadows, create a barrier, or doesn't create a barrier, an insulated barrier, and so they get wet. If there's mold in the house, mold will follow a wet spot, and so you see the shadowing of the studs in that house. Additionally, it follows the location of where the air is traveling. In other words, probably in that corner area is some kind of hole where the air is leaking out of the house. The warm, damp moisture is traveling from the house to those locations and trying to escape. The sad part about this picture here is not only the fact that it is a house that is obviously very sick, but you see on the table there is a new box of trains. It looks like it was just recently opened, meaning that kids are playing in or around this room, which is a very unhealthy situation, not only for kids, but for all people in the house. Next slide, please. So we talk about house as a system. And in this picture here, we have a couple outlines. We have a yellow box and then a blue box. One is the pressure boundary, and that is the boundary where air cannot leave. And then the white or the yellow line is the insulation barrier. And that's what is used to keep the cold out, or they keep the heat from transferring from hot area to a cold area. And we want both of those to align or be right next to each other. When that's the case, it is the most efficient way to keep a house healthy. So in here we have a cook stove or a fireplace, and it's putting out, in this case, it could be moisture. It could be putting out smoke. If you're burning something, whatever it is, it's putting it out into the house. Next slide, please. As time goes on, we get more and more particles in the air that are harmful. And so what we try to do is you put in some kind of area so that fresh air can come in a organized fashion, and it is managed, and it also escapes out. So in this case, we have a fan on the right hand side, and probably a passive opening for the house. Okay. Also, the stove has its own air source so that it can create proper combustion, and the exhaust leaves out the chimney and doesn't come into the house. we have to remember with indoor air quality particles, moisture, whatever is in the air, just because we're ventilating it out doesn't mean that only the bad particles are getting sent out. Everything gets sent out based on the rate or the ratio of what that air coming in is. So basically, ventilation is diluting the indoor air, trying to make it healthier. Next slide, please. Okay, so looking at the house as a system, it's not quite as easy as back in the day when I was younger and I thought, oh, I see a hole, I'll fix the hole and not worry about anything else. It's a lot of science that has got us to the point where we understand pretty well how to weatherize homes. Here we have the top weatherization priorities. This is a generalization based on a study that was done in 2018 on weatherizations across the state. So the first priority that weatherization crews have is the health and safety. The health and safety of the house and the health and safety of the occupants. Occupants are the priority to keep them safe because without the occupants, what good is a house? Increasing the air tightness is a priority. Insulating the ceilings, floors, walls. In John's examples, you know, his house that he talked about, no insulation in the ceiling at all. We know that you have a heated area on the inside and cold on the outside. You're going to have rain coming in that house as soon as that ice on that ceiling melts, which is going to cause problems for the floor and walls as that moisture works its way down from the top to the bottom of the house. Sometimes it includes replacing doors or windows and the heating systems. Sometimes heating systems only need a test and tune. Other times they need a total replacement. And so those are the priorities that weatherization has when they go out to the community. Over here, and I'm sorry, I don't know the community. This is a local community where the people were trained how to do weatherization on some of the buildings. Next slide, please. So the health and safety is the #1 priority of the weatherization project. So, or program. So one of the things that as homeowners, we recommend that you do is most Toyo stoves or similar stoves, they have a programmable feature in them. A lot of times, however, if there's a power surge or they get unplugged, they lose that programming. And so programming a Toyo stove so that it is running the most operational efficiency is a priority to do. Turning the temperature down at nighttime when you don't need it and up in the daytime when you do need it. And then unplugging unused equipment. And those are called ghost loads or vampire loads. We had a house where we were here in Anchorage. I got a call from them and they said that, you know, this is my utility bill for the last 3 months. Can you tell me what's going on? I think the utility company is charging me too much. And I looked at it as, hey, cool, I got to do some research and find out, you know, what's happening with this house. And when I went into that house, it was a 2-story home, probably 1,800 square feet, nothing special in it that would lead me to think that they should have that high utility cost. Until I went downstairs into the family room and I saw that they had, you know, 2 big screen TVs, they had Xboxes, they had Game Boys, they had their phones plugged in, and all of this equipment, even when it was not operating, was doubling the utility use of that house. So that's called a ghost load. In other words, the TV sucks modern TVs not as much as the older ones, but the Game Boys and Xboxes and phone chargers, they're pulling power from the grid, from your house, even if they're not being used at that time. This homeowner wasn't aware of that. So one of the things that we talk to people when we do the weatherization is to unplug equipment that's not being used or upgrade the appliances, use LED lighting and replace broken windows and doors. Those are things that homeowners can do pretty well without worrying about changing their house and making it harmful for the people that live in there. Then there's what we call professional actions. And that's where we recommend that you hire an expert. We'll let you determine, who an expert is. But obviously it needs to be somebody who's aware of what they're testing. We do diagnostic testing of the heating systems, of combustion safety. In other words, is it burning cleanly or does it need to be replaced? Is it backdrafting? Is there air sealing that needs to be done and insulation installed? And where does that insulation get installed? Replacing fans and ventilation. That is going to change depending on your house. If you don't have a fan in your bathroom or a fan that's not working and all of a sudden you put in a fan, it may cause your heating system to backdraft, which is going to bring in all the carbon monoxide and hurt the people that are living in there. And then you have heating systems, tune-ups or replacements as necessary. Those are things that we would suggest that you hire an expert. And then there's the Energy Savers tip booklet over here on the left-hand side. I think Bertha has some of those available, and we also have those available online at our website. And that has a lot of really good tips for homeowners and how they can save energy, not necessarily what needs to be replaced in their house, but how does your behavior and how can your behavior change to save energy. Next slide. Then there are certain programs in the state right now that are available to all homeowners. The Heating Assistance Program, the Power Cost Equalization or PCE for your electric use, weatherization programs, second mortgage for energy conservation or energy efficiency interest rate reduction. These are all state programs. There's federal programs that are available, and there's a bunch of resources available to homeowners, such as our information center here at AHFC, or you can contact any of us at AHFC and we'd be more than happy to help you. There's also the Cold Climate Research Center, which is CCHRC up in Fairbanks. Vast knowledge of Alaska and energy efficiency in Alaska. This is only a few that are available to homeowners right now. Next slide, please. Okay, and then a special thanks for anybody and everybody here right now who is interested in energy efficiency, because obviously that's something that can be done and should be done, and we should pay attention to it. Special thanks again to John for participating, and I'll leave Dennis out because he didn't say anything. But he would have talked probably a lot better about the rural cap projects than and that process than I do. And I left our contact names and numbers here. If you ever need to get a hold of us, please feel free to do so. And with that, Bertha, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mike, for your presentation and covering for Dennis. And thank you to John Owens. The Sustainable Energy Occupational Endorsement courses are being offered through UAF Bristol Bay campus. We attached some information on to the contact information is Mark Misteller. If anybody is interested, his email is on the slide and phone number. There's an upcoming Basics of Solar Energy class, which is an online class beginning November 4th. It's a 1 credit class, and UAF Bristol Bay campus has tuition assistance available to any participant. So contact Mark at the email listed if you're interested in taking this class. Our upcoming energy training sessions that we're offering are the PCE rate setting and reporting, which is November 11th. O&M for rural power plants will be January 21st of next year, and then renewable energy systems and electricity in February. You can sign up on our website at CEMAI@calistacorp.com, or you could contact me by email. Once again, we'd like to thank all our partners for their support. Department of Energy, Indian Energy, Calista Corporation, New Vista, AHFC, Alaska Housing Finance Corporation, CCHRC, and Deerstone and Consultants. We'd like to open up this portion for questions from our participants. I think we have one on the phone. Or Tim or Tashina, if you have anything that you'd like to share at this time.
For me, well covered, everyone. Thank you.
I guess I just have a question from a community perspective. If there's a community that was interested in doing like a community-wide, say, housing energy efficiency project, how could CEMAI maybe get involved to help steer them in the right direction? Or what are the resources that are available? I guess this day and age, I know that's sort of changed over the last 10 years. And maybe Mike, I don't know if that's a question you can answer.
I don't know if I can answer that per se, but I can give you an overall process. The hardest part to get is the funding aspect of it. A lot of the grants and a lot of the DOE calls them awards now. They don't give them grants anymore. They award funding out. A lot of those are specific and for a specific purpose. For instance, Alaska Energy Authority right now is going into communities and changing external halogen lights into LED lights. That's a specific award that they were given. There's other awards to possibly change the heating systems. So it's very hard right now to find a grant or an award that just gives you the option to go into a community and make a whole bunch of changes to various homes. So the hardest part is going to be able to find that funding. It's out there, but it might have to be paired with a different, multiple awards to do what you want it to be done. The second part is, if you have a plan, is to get somebody who is an expert. We're going to just leave it as an expert, who can go into the homes and find out what needs to be done and what it would take to make the improvements. After you have that information, then you can create your plan and start working on those improvements. There are a lot of weatherization experts that are no longer working because funding has decreased so drastically after 2008 or 2018, I'm sorry, that are available to come into a community and to train them how to do that work. And that's something that in talking to Rural Cap and talking to other weatherization agencies, they have people that would be willing to do that on a contract basis. So is it possible? Yes, it's possible, and it should be done. How? I don't know. I'd have to know more about the individual communities.
And Tashina, to your first part of your question, I can add to some of Michael's expert testimony there on the comments. The work that the CEMAI team can do when invited by community members or the decision makers in the community, the tribal office, for example, we can help identify where some of those pots of funding may be, even though, as Michael said, there aren't as many grants or awards available at this point in time than there used to be a few years ago or a decade ago. However, because there is the capacity that Michael noted with folks who have been involved with the weatherization program from the service provider side of things, those are resources that are in the region oftentimes, or in the communities in some cases, and where we can match those, where the CEMAI team can help the community match those folks who are essentially the workforce with some of the funds that might be around. We can help identify those and connect those resources for your individual community. And so definitely underline what Bertha mentioned earlier, which is to essentially reach out to Bertha, to reach out to CEMAI if you're interested in pursuing some of the energy efficiency opportunities in the residential sector.
And I think one of the big points that's overlooked a lot of times is people are afraid to ask and say, hey, what about this, or what about that? We highly recommend that people speak their mind and ask those questions, because if people don't ask those questions, they'll never get answered. And sometimes those questions spark an interest or spark a bigger development that could turn into a energy efficiency project in a community.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I think we'd like to offer this session again, probably in the spring. Thank you, Mike, for your expertise and sharing your knowledge about the home energy basics. Unfortunately, Dennis wasn't able to join us, but we'd also like to thank John Owens for joining us as well from AVCP Housing Authority. We'll hopefully see you at our upcoming sessions.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.